Welcome back, and our topic today, the crucial role of the banking sector in achieving sustainable development and economic growth in Egypt. And on this topic, we're delighted to be joined here live at the studio by Dr. Mohammed Roshdy, financial and economic expert. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you. I would like to thank you and our daily debate team for this kind invitation today. And
thank you. Our pleasure.
And our audience.
Our pleasure to have you, sir. Sir, the crucial role of the banking sector in Egypt was very obvious during the recent years, and its impact on economic growth and sustainable development. What's your take on that?
In my humble opinion, the banking sector is playing a vital role in our economy. As you know, and our audience, that the economy is consists of three main pillars. The first one, which is the agriculture part, the industrial part, and the third one, which is the service part. And if you would like to have a sustainable and solid economy, you have to work on those main pillars. Accordingly, the banking sector, or the banks in general, are considered the main pillar, or the key player who finance all those sectors that help in developing the economy. And globally, if I would like to talk about the banking sector generally, the role of the banking sector globally is quite important concerning absorbing the inflation. As you know, and our audience, that we have a global inflation wave globally, especially after the Ukrainian and Russian war, and the central banks globally did actually a great job, and this is reflected on Egypt. The MPC, Monetary Policy of Committee, they played a great job to absorb this wave of inflation, and nowadays you can see that the inflation rate is decreasing. In addition to one of the most important things in the development part, which financing the small and medium enterprises. And if I would like to simplify to our audience the main role of SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, it's like, if you would like to have a solid economy, you have to diversify your investments. Or we can say it in another way, if you would like to mitigate the risk, you shouldn't put all the eggs in one basket. Metaphorically, to elaborate more for our audience, if we have an economy, our economy consists of two main companies. If one of them is defaulted, what will happen? We will lose like 50% of our economy. But if we have a prices, if one of them defaults, the one will come. Accordingly, central banks and Ministry of Finance, they played a great role, especially the central banks and their arms, the commercial and governmental banks, to finance small and medium enterprises. This has helped to create new jobs, and you can see easily that the unemployment rate decreased. In addition, the GDP growth, which reflected on GDP growth, giving a positive signals to investors to bring FDI. Those are the most important things for central bank, for banks in general. And this is, we can see easily nowadays in Egypt, it reflected on a lot of things, especially on the economic part. Just it's in a nutshell, I believe that I briefed the main role for banks globally and how this is reflected on Egypt.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, sir, you focused on two very important points, the CBE, which is, of course, the Central Bank of Egypt, and its role in financing SMEs, or small and medium enterprises. Would you tell us more details about this financing to small and medium enterprises, and how far has the banking sector met direct financing needs for micro and medium entrepreneurs?
First of all, a great initiative for financing small and medium enterprises, which reflected on the, as I highlighted previously, the unemployment rate, and reflected also on the GDP growth. They did a great initiative concerning have a special programs for small and medium enterprises, in addition to financial inclusion that helped on microfinance, and they did those special programs with the special interest rate. You can see that the interest rate, as far as I recall, reached to 5 to 8%, despite the fact that the lending rate nowadays it reached to 25, 27%.
Yeah.
You can see why they are doing that. They are supporting the economy. In addition to they putting a lot of initiatives and supporting private banks and public banks to finance small and medium enterprises. They put a cap for SMEs from their loans portfolio, and to get the incentive of CBE reserve or something like that, you have to get this target, which is, as far as I recall, it reached to 20-25%, something like that. Accordingly, all banks, or let me say it in another way, the arms of the banks, which is the private and public banks, they worked in a harmony. This in addition to, after that, Ministry of Finance. You can see that all sectors are working together to achieve one of the most important that will reflect on having sustainable economy, which aligned with our 2030 vision concerning have a sustainable economy.
How has Egypt's economy developed with regards to digital banking and the financial inclusion in specific?
I believe one of the most important things, which is the digitalization, I would like to return back to one of the famous quotes for Heraclitus: the only constant in the life is a change. Accordingly, nowadays we are going to the era of digitalization. Everything will go digital. And I recalled one of the famous CEOs in UK, CEOs for a huge bank. He said that we will face as a bank, as a banking sector, or bankers, what we call it one of the most important Uber moment for banking, which is he metaphorically described it like like the traditional taxi and the taxi which is using application now.
Yes.
If we didn't develop, we will be obsoleted. Accordingly, the banks have a solid plan to go for digital era, and we can see easily that the law of banking, as far as I recall, 193 for year 2020, give a chapter for the digitalization part to support the economy. And this is one of the most important things to go for the digital era. And this is reflected on also the number of banked customers that reached, as far as I recall, one of the latest reports for central banks, it reached to more than 70%, as far as I recall, the banked customers. You can see easily that if we have those initiatives with the digitalization part, that, let me say it, if I'm an Egyptian citizen, how this will reflect on me. In a nutshell, it will reflect on a lot of fields. If everything is going under the umbrella of banking sector, you can see that the tax will be increased. Accordingly, it will reflect on the education budget, reflect structure. You can see we have a great initiatives concerning the infrastructure nowadays. In addition to, one of the most important things, you know, as you know, and our audience, one of the most important sector who is financing the deficit of balance of payment is the banking sector. When the central banks or Ministry of Finance is making an auction concerning sovereigns, treasury bills or governmental bonds, one of the important sectors that, as far as I recall, buying more than 70 to 80% from those auctions, the banking sector. They have a great role. Accordingly, to return back to our point concerning a lot of initiatives concerning SMEs and the digitalization part, in addition to financing the strategic part or the national part, financing the deficit of payment that will reflect on the mega projects and a lot of initiatives, infrastructures, a lot of things that will reflect also at the end of this to bring FDI. And this is aligned with our initiatives of Egypt initiative to have 100 million expert. This is one of the most important things. And if we have a SME sector, strong SME sector, and the cost of financing the project is quite low, you will help the entrepreneurs, you will help the small and medium enterprises. This is positively will reflect on our economy and will be one of the, what we are calling it, booming economies in the coming years. And you can see small signals that the globe is seeing it actually, which is the BRICS. The BRICS joined, give the invitation to join to Egypt and other countries to join the BRICS. Why this? Because we are on the right track. We have a strategic vision. All sectors, the central banks, the banking sector, working in harmony with Ministry of Finance and all sectors and Ministry of Investments.
Well, concerning digital banking and financial inclusion, how do you think the public has accepted these new ideas here in Egypt? How far do you see these new concepts acceptable to the public?
Actually, as you know, and our audience, when we have a new initiatives, it will little bit will be, I wouldn't like to call it as a resistance for accepting the idea. Actually, it's not a resistance for accepting. This is a human nature. But to be honest with you and our audience, we can see that the Egyptian citizen is going fastly under the umbrella of banking because they know the benefit of it. In addition to a lot of regulations that the Ministry of Finance, with coordination with the banking sector, central bank and all sectors, to enforce in what we are calling it the financial inclusion, or we're calling it the official market for using money actually in a proper way. This is quite important. How we can see this, as you know, and our audience, that it was a few years ago that as far as I recall, 60 to 70% from our economy, what we are calling it a gray economy. And the country are not, and we are not benefiting from it. It's they are trading things without giving paying tax, without reflecting back on the country. This is a crucial thing. But you can see when the Egyptian citizen go under the umbrella of financial inclusion, he will reflect on the education part and our ambitious planning NHS, National Health System, to have a solid national health system, which will reflect on this. In addition to a lot of things, the unemployment rate will be decreased. You can see easily nowadays the unemployment, as far as I call it, reached to 7.5%, something like that. And it was in 2013 reached to, as far as I recall, 13%. You can see this harmony and working all sectors, the Ministry of Finance, in addition to Ministry of Investment, the banking sector, central bank, they are doing a lot of things. And one of the most important things to absorb the inflation part, you can see easily that the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, is doing a great initiative under supervision of CBE government. and under the direction of the presidential leadership actually of Fatah Sisi and Dr. Madbouli ministry is working under this direction to absorb the inflation. And you can see easily that the inflation rate is decreasing way, and you can see easily that there is no parallel market for foreign currency.
Yes.
Or
yes. For a while it has
for
been.
A while.
This is true. Well, and this is of course good news for Egyptians. Well, sir, just allow me to go to this report, Egypt's emergencies as Middle East leading banking frontier. More details in the following report.
The Egyptian economy has evolved many folds within digital banking and financial inclusion at the core helm of Egypt's Vision 2030 strategy. Thanks to a booming transformed digital shift and revision in the economic reforms, since the early 2016s, Egypt is on the verge of becoming the second major digital banking hub post the United Arab Emirates in the coming years. Egypt's pioneer Central Bank of Egypt and 39 other banks with more than 3,500 branches have been lauded by the World Bank, World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund as the fastest emerging digital banking hub across the Middle East North African region. Egypt's digital finance transformation has achieved remarkable strides in recent years with its players and modern revised government reforms. Egyptian banking sector is investing heavily in innovative, digitalized banking and services, offering retail clients, small and medium enterprises, entrepreneurs, young tech-savvy populace instant core updates on financial products, services and a cashless economy. Egypt has been a clear winner in terms of financial inclusion with a threefold surge in the number of bank account creations, ATM utilization, a 300% surge in digital payments and insurance portfolios, representing almost 2.6 million registered accounts. The total microfinance portfolio exceeded £93.4 billion, benefiting over 4.5 million clients in the first quarter of 2024. NGOs licensed to finance services supported 1.8 million clients with a credit portfolio growth of 27.6% to 19.4 billion Egyptian pounds. Microfinance provided by companies has increased by 52% to 35.4 billion Egyptian pounds, serving 1.9 million clients. When it comes to digitizing and taking the road towards Egypt's cashless economy, under the goals of Egypt's Vision 2030, Egyptian banks emerge as one of the core performers in the region.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and still with my guest, Dr. Mohammed Roshdy, financial and economic expert, and still on the banking sector development. Sir, could you highlight the importance of the financial regulatory authorities' licenses for medium and small enterprises financing in bridging the credit gap between microfinance institutions and the banking sector?
This is one of the most important topics, especially financing microfinance and small and medium enterprises. This is a crucial thing, especially nowadays. One of the most important factors, the cost of financing this. Nowadays, within the global inflation wave, you can see that the cost of lending money is quite high for a lot of countries. You can see this is one of the most important things, and it's obstacle for the economic development. You can see easily that the central bank and presidential Fatah Sisi and Dr. Madbouli is giving a direction for this through one of the most important things, which is special programs for small and medium enterprises and microfinance. They're giving a special interest rate. You can see, as I started our episode today, that the interest rate for lending reached to more than 25%. But through special programs for SME, for microfinance, the banking sector can lend within 5 to 8%, and to enforce or to motivate, not to enforce, I would like to rectify to a better word, to motivate banks. They are giving what we are calling it incentive. The governor is giving an incentive for CBE governor giving incentive for banks to lend those programs. They are giving incentive concerning the CBE reserve, as you know, and our audience. One of the most important things, if you put your money on the banks, you have to pay a CBE reserve. Who is paying that or bearing that? Banks, not the customer, for sure. And the central bank is giving a room for the banks who is going within the direction for the central bank and presidential leadership to finance small and medium enterprises and microfinance, a special waiver for CBE reserve, and a lot of deviation. In addition to one of the most important things, that financing small and medium enterprises and microfinance, this is one of the most important things to have a solid economy, to mitigate what we are calling it the risk of having a great institutions. If we have a great institutions or great enterprises, if one of them is defaulted, we lose. For example, if we have two companies, we lose like 50% of our economy. But if we would like to mitigate the risk, we have to have a lot of companies. And see, one of the most amazing things, in my humble opinion, that you can see that all sectors are working together. Central bank is giving special interest with aligning with Ministry of Finance. In addition to that, Ministry of Investments is giving a tax deviation or tax incentive for a lot of enterprises, especially for entrepreneurs and for new companies, and for investors. But with one condition for the investors, that you have to have like 60% of the ingredients or from the local components, or the local components 60 to 70%. For that, you can see that the economic wheel cycle is working in a proper way, and all sectors in our country is working like one man. And they are working together in a proper way. There is a great harmony. This is quite great, and despite the fact we faced a lot of crises. We started from the pandemic, unfortunately, and after that the Ukrainian and Russian war and the global inflation wave that reflected on all essential products, oil and wheat, and a lot of essential products that will reflect automatically on the commodities. We have a solid economy. We faced all this with a tactical and strategic vision from Presidential Fattah Sisi, Dr. Madbouli. In addition to all sectors are working together, Central Bank, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Investments, to face all those crises. And this is, in my humble opinion, it's what we are calling the art of handling the crisis, which is crisis management in another way.
Well, as you've just said, of course, Egypt has achieved a lot with regards to its economy, especially after the global economic crisis and the pandemic and the Russian-Ukrainian war. Still, our economy is stable and sustainable. With regards to foreign direct investments, how do you assess the government's initiatives to attract foreign direct investments and boost the private sector in Egypt?
by the way, I can say you hit a nerve actually. It's foreign direct investments and having a solid economy or solid banking. It's two faces for one coin, actually. The government and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has a great initiative concerning and a great vision concerning bringing FDI. In my humble opinion, to bring FDI, we should have main pillars. One of them, mainly the infrastructure. And I would like to quote one of my international friends. He's saying that we have a magic stick concerning the infrastructure. You can see that in a Great Cairo there's a mega projects, and Sinai, and at the same time Upper Egypt, all our country, there is a great project concerning especially the infrastructure. This is one of the most important things. In addition to why one of the most important things that will reflect on what we are calling it the competitiveness report. To simplify to our audience, what is the competitiveness report? This is a global report. If you are an investor and you will in a country, you have to check this, and you can see before investing your money in any country that jumped, as far as I recall, like 20 ranks on this report, competitiveness report. One of the main pillars, which is the infrastructure. In addition to having manpower, the cost of manpower, and having skilled manpower. And if you would like to have skilled manpower, you have to focus on two things. In my humble opinion, the first one, which is the education, and the second one, which is the health part. And you can see that there is a great initiative concerning the education part. We have a lot of universities, especially technical universities. In addition to increasing the budget of education, it's a great focus. It's one of the main plans that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi highlighted on his plan, actually, that to focus on the education part, especially the technical education, in addition to the health part, which is we have an ambitious plan concerning national health system. And if you have great infrastructure and the manpower, skilled and healthy manpower, in addition to having the financing source in a proper way, it quite easily will reflect on the competitiveness report, and it helped us to bring more FDI. And you can see easily that a lot of countries nowadays, especially from Arab countries, they are competing to invest in Egypt. Why they are? The investor, by the way, is not doing that for just I would like to pay some money on a country. No, he is seeking about what we are calling it ROI, return on investments. If he couldn't see high return on his investments, he will not come. By the way, they are seeing that Egypt is quite potential, and in my humble opinion, that in the coming years, Egypt will be the business hub in Africa. And this is reflected on a lot of things, especially when we turn it back, starting President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi taking the leading for the country, returning to play our historical role on Africa, and concerning the economic development and a lot of those initiatives, and playing our political and historical role, we will be, I'm quite sure, business hub in Africa.
How can we convince investors of injecting money directly into Egypt, into the different sectors?
Actually, this is one of the most important things, and we can say it in a short or a simple way, that if you would like to have foreign direct investments in a proper way, we have, by the way, a lot of things: the infrastructure, the manpower, the financing. One of the most important things that we have to work on it in a different way, the marketing part. to get the money from a lot of countries, and you have to market those things in a different way, and adapting what we are calling it marketing mix for the investors. Especially we have a different cultures, we have a different things, and by the way, we are calling the European countries continent, they are considering Africa as an sorry, they are calling it youth content. Why? Because the pyramid of age, it's like 60 to 70% are youth, despite the fact if we took the Europe, the European countries, as far as I recall, the pyramid is inverted. 60 to 70% is senior citizen. Accordingly, Egypt is quite potential to have investment, and we have to doing more promotional campaigns and adding a lot of...
And a huge market, of course.
And a huge market.
A huge market for any product.
Yes, and the government is studying quite well, actually, the investment law in a proper way to increase the tax incentive and encourage investors to come and remove all the obstacles. One of the most important example to give the credit for the government and President Fattah Sisi, the golden license. You can establish your company in a, as far as I recall, in less than 1 day or maximum couple of days.
Great. Well, on this positive note, I would like to thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed Roshdy, financial and economic expert. Many thanks for your presence and for your insight.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of the Daily Debate. Many thanks for watching. This has been Ramzi signing off.